Story 25, the 10 plagues and the deliverance of God's people. Exodus 7:25-12:42. After the Nile turned to blood, Pharaoh's heart remained hard. God sent more plagues to show his power and free his people. The plague of frogs. Frogs covered Egypt, homes, beds, and ovens. Pharaoh begged Moses to pray for the frogs to leave, but when they did, Pharaoh hardened his heart again. The plague of gnats. Dust turned into gnats, swarming people and animals. Pharaoh's magicians couldn't replicate this, saying, "This is the finger of God." Still, Pharaoh refused to listen. The plague of flies. Swarms of flies filled Egyptian homes, but didn't touch the Israelites in Goshen. Pharaoh agreed to let the Israelites worship God, but later changed his mind for the plague on livestock. All Egyptian livestock died, but the Israelites' animals were unharmed. Pharaoh's heart remained stubborn. The plague of boils, painful boils broke out on Egyptians and animals. Even Pharaoh's magicians suffered, but Pharaoh refused to free the Israelites. The plague of hail. Hailstorms destroyed Egypt's crops and livestock in the fields, sparing only the land of Goshen. Pharaoh admitted his sin, but hardened his heart once the storm ended. The plague of locusts. Locusts devoured whatever the hail left behind. Pharaoh begged for forgiveness but still refused to let God's people go. The plague of darkness. For 3 days, darkness covered Egypt, but the Israelites had light in their homes. Pharaoh tried to bargain, but he still would not release the Israelites. Finally, God warned of the last and most terrible plague. He instructed the Israelites to prepare. Each family was to sacrifice a spotless lamb and place its blood on their doorposts. That night, the angel of death would pass through Egypt, killing the firstborn of every family, but the homes with the blood of the lamb would be spared. The Israelites obeyed, and that night the angel of death passed over their homes. But in Egypt, every firstborn, from Pharaoh's son to the lowest servant's child, died. Pharaoh and all of Egypt wept bitterly. Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, "Go, leave my people. Take your flocks and herds and go worship the Lord." The Israelites left Egypt in haste, carrying unleavened bread and the wealth the Egyptians gave them. This event, called the Passover, marked the beginning of God's deliverance for his people, reflection for children. The plagues show us that God is powerful and keeps his promises. The blood of the Lamb reminds us of Jesus, the Lamb of God who saves us from sin and death.